The street is where we create. We call it suburbanpreneurship.
Mixing big company resources with an entrepreneurial spirit.
This is Electric People. All right, Electric People, we are in the back room in Chicago, street edition with senior market leader Chris Brochu, Darrell Doucette by my side. Always feel good when you're by my side.
I'm handheld today.
And in the handheld
mic.
Check it out. How you doing, man?
Good. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Well, thanks for having us in your home and letting us convert it into a studio and run amok in Illinois.
Hey, our media team's good. We got basketball going on right around the corner.
Can't even tell.
Can't even tell.
Hey, so let's jump right into it because I think there's a lot to be learned from your story.
Okay.
I'm interested in the path leading up to this back room today. I'm told of tales of travels and ponytails and fighting, and give us a brief history of your life and what led you to Sunrun.
Okay, sure. Well, as a younger man, my only motivation was travel, basically. So I did a stint in the military and then started traveling the world. Basically, moved out to Colorado to be a snowboard bum. Worked for Vail Resorts for some seasons. And then
Where are you from originally? Where'd you?
Connecticut. I grew up in Connecticut. Yep. And then basically started traveling internationally. I would say I hit about 36 countries by the time I was 28.
Wow.
And
So
then,
was travel like a family thing or just a?
no, I would work for 6 months, book a plane ticket 6 months in advance. Just that was basically it. I would decide where I was going to go and book an open-ended plane ticket, and then have 6 months to just work to make money to go on that trip.
Dude, I wish I had that. Like, as I've looked at like my own motivations and stuff, like I love fun, I love excitement, I love adventure. And I wish it was like my sole motivation, but I'm like I've got that thing of like a little bit of like, oh, I could never, or how do you make money? Or like the security thing comes first.
Yeah.
And so it often limits. It's cool that you had that very young.
That was my only, like I said, my only motivation. So I was like, I just want to see the world and travel and figure out life afterwards. So that's kind of what I did.
People with you? Did you go alone? All the above?
Both. So initially I started traveling with an ex-girlfriend. We, did India, did Thailand, spent, backpacked all over Europe for 4 months.
Are you a planner or are you just kind of a set it and go guy?
Set it and go. And then usually if I was bringing someone, they kind of did more planning than me. And I would be like, okay, let's go.
Wow.
Like if you have to, I guess we can plan.
But, the way I did traveling was small backpacks, like hostels, camping. Like I didn't care at that time, like whatever, I'll figure it out. Like, definitely cheap because it wasn't, until I got married, then we started doing the 4-star hotel thing and, for the week or whatever. But
4-star hotel, the hoity-toity. You're like a little embarrassed. You're like,
yeah.
You should be like eating berries.
Pretty much.
Yeah, he was
exactly.
more excited about and proud of the backpack version, and he was a little embarrassed about the force.
I think there's something to that with travel. I think it's a positive trait to like not need a lot.
Yeah.
I talk about that in my family because I have 6 kids. And so recently we just got to this celebrated age where we were in Utah for a wedding. My wife had to stay back for like more wedding stuff that I couldn't be a part of and my kids couldn't. And so I flew back with all 6 kids. And often like, I'm still kind of like every now and then my wife leaves. She's like, hey, I have to go. I'm like, wait, you're taking the kid. Like, wait, I can't handle them all. Anyway, so it's me flying with 6 kids and it was kind of no problem. But I often talk about like, hey, just like don't need a lot. Like don't be the one that like needs a lot, And so I'm always like sort of proud. Like when I travel, if I'm like, hey, I fit it all into like one bag. Like I don't need a lot,
For me, it was more about just immersing myself in the culture, whatever I was going to, I went to India and lived there for almost 5 months and just traveled India and lived in hostels and, go with a small backpack, bring very little clothes because usually international traveling is cheap, like to buy things. So you just buy whatever you need when you're there and kind of, try to dress with the culture to some extent.
Okay, we got to splice some pictures into this. I'm sure you.
We've got some. There's one specific picture that keeps coming back around. That's the ponytail picture. We'll have to get it.
I think you're talking about the one, like a side profile picture
with your stick.
Oh, okay. No, that's not the one.
He's in the middle. We got to talk about this. He's
Sure.
in the middle of like where I assume monks live. Like it's like a monastery, straight out of like a kung fu movie. And he's in a pose with a stick, ponytail flowing in the wind.
Is this like a hiking stick or like a weapon?
No, it was a weapon. So basically,
So staff?
I grew up studying martial arts my whole life, and I decided, like, after I broke up with that girlfriend I traveled with, to take a year-long trip to Asia by myself. So with very little agenda other than I was going to live in a Taoist monastery in China for 6 months and study martial arts, which is what I ended up doing. So
Can you just go to a Taoist monastery and say,
You just
I
knock.
see-
You just knock
I
on the
seek
door.
Training?
not necessarily. I mean,
Or is there a website?
Yeah, do you have to register?
I mean, you have to register, and it's not easy to get a 6-month visa to China either, actually. So you have to kind of plan that in advance. Usually the 3 months is the most they'll give you. And I had to like get special permission and show them this is where I'm going and this is where I'll be staying for 6 months in order to get that visa and allow me to do that. But so we basically studied martial arts 6 hours a day, 6 days a week.
Amazing.
3 in the morning, 3 in the evening when it wasn't like not so hot during the middle of the day.
So you meet Chris, and you don't know
Yeah.
that he could end you.
Dude, I love that. I like that's such like what amazing, like almost like indescribable experience.
It was pretty awesome. I mean, the Shifu, the master that kind of ran the school, also took in Chinese orphans. So there was like 30 to 40 Chinese orphans that were anywhere from 5 years old to 18 years old. And some of them stayed after they're 18, they go and do what they want. But some of them stayed after to help train the foreign students. So the foreigners were paid to be there and train. And then the Chinese students were there just to they got taken in, but they trained way harder than the foreign students. Like that's all they did. They live, sleep, eat, breathe martial arts all day, every day.
It probably gives them purpose and
I saw some things from those kids that most of us would consider to be impossible. Like
wow.
crazy.
That's so cool.
So I feel like that's where like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles got their subplot. Like Master.
I'm thinking through so many movies right now, and I'm like, it's that life, actually.
It's literally
Kung
like
Fu
he's
Panda.
creating this army of people, gives them purpose, teaches them how to fight, and that's where like the legions of like
The Shredder lesions come from.
all the so as far like traveling to new countries alone, like what are some like life lessons that you pulled from that? Like you must have just so much time to like broaden your perspective on how the world works, form your personality, decide like how you want to be. Like
Sure. I mean, the military teaches you a lot about who you are for one, and gives you confidence that you can kind of do whatever. And then I would say international traveling by yourself. I did a lot before. Like if I went international traveling by myself for the first time, like that I had internationally traveled, that probably would have felt different. But because I had already been to Thailand and India and all over Europe, like I was pretty confident at that point that I can swing this. But it gives you a lot of time to reflect and kind of like figure out what your next steps are in life. So, I mean, sometimes life just kind of happens. Like, so in that same year-long trip that I was referring to, I was living in Thailand on an island called Koh Tao, trying to get my dive master for scuba diving, because I used to live on the big island of Hawaii. And the plan was to basically get my dive master. I was planning to move back to Hawaii, surf every day, take tourists out scuba diving all day, bartend part-time, and that was going to be the life that I had.
you're like a character in a rom-com.
Yeah, that was the plan,
And
right?
she comes to visit the island and meets
Yeah.
this interesting guy who's well-traveled that pretty much scuba dives and surfs and bartends.
And then he takes her around the world.
Well, none of that took place. So I perforated my eardrum
Oh,
during like the rescue dive before you start your dive master. And then I went to Bangkok to teach English while my ear healed so I can go back and finish. And while I was teaching English, I met a girl who we ended up getting married, having my son, which was in Thailand actually. So I ended up living in Bangkok, Thailand for 3 years.
wow.
While I waited for her to get a green card to come to the United States.
This is why I love Chris. He's like a little gem. He's got these stories in this life that when you meet him, you're like, oh yeah, Connecticut makes sense. You're like, actually, Connecticut's a very small part. It's more China, Thailand.
That was like
India.
birth to 18, and then
Yeah.
a lot happened.
What have you come to love about like Asian culture from from martial arts and from your time there?
I mean, so Thailand in particular is well known for a few different things: beaches, great food, beautiful women for sure, and kickboxing. So, when I was young,
Like all those things.
That's why I went there.
you could say that. So in this case, though, when I was younger, I studied more like, self-defense martial arts until I Kempo, karate, different things of that nature. And then
Is Kempo like use like the sticks and stuff with Kempo?
no, that's just more like karate, self-defense, like type of, and it's from my perspective, martial arts that doesn't work very well. And then when I was 18, I started taking Muay Thai, like more mixed martial arts, Muay Thai, kickboxing with Jeet Kune Do and Kali, which is stick and knife fighting. And then more of those, type of like
real
severe,
like practical.
yeah,
functional.
practical. And while I was in China studying, I became really good friends with a guy named Eliran from Israel, and he was like a 3rd-degree black belt in Krav Maga. So him and I actually did a lot of training together as far as because the Kung Fu practice was cool. That's more internal martial arts, and that's what I was like interested in at that point. But I learned a lot from him. It's always good to just pair up with someone that can kick your ass, and that's basically what Eliran was good for. So I knew that he could hand me my butt anytime he felt like it. So it's always good to just pit yourself against somebody that you can't win with, because you're going to learn more from those failures than anything else.
That's a great message to take from that.
Have we ever talked about Jeet Kune Do?
No.
So when I first came to Solar, I fell in with this trainer, and I'd never done any kind of fight training before.
Okay.
And I took like private instruction from a guy that teaches Jeet Kune Do. He was like, so his dad trained with Jerry Poteet, who trained with Bruce Lee. So it's like, yeah, like they're like two, levels down, and like the genealogy in Jeet Kune Do, it really matters. So, and then, his son is the one that had trained me, and he was actually one of our, I ended up recruiting my instructor to be one of our market leaders for a long time. So, when I was learning and kind of like building teams and learning kind of like a new facet of leadership in the solar space,
Sure.
at least twice a week for 2 hours, just on private time after knocking, I was doing Jeet Kune Do. I was learning how to like fight and train, and I'd never like moved my body that way and like my brain, and I'd never had to like think like that. And it was so helpful to everything else that was happening in my life. It was helpful for leadership. It was helpful for sales. It was helpful for my mentality, and just like that like offense mindset of like, I'm going to think in a way where certain outcomes happen. I don't know how to describe it, but I've since moved away from that area where they train, and he'll come down and train me like every month. So just, what day is it? Wednesday? On Monday, I had a chance to kind of re-up and do some training and such. And it's like, dude, when it's probably like that with anything that you love to do, but like any kind of developmental, physical, like outside of your professional, like day to day, is so helpful for your development,
Shamefully, that whole thing was 17 years ago at this point. Then, married, kids, life,
Yeah.
career, all that stuff kind of took over, and I kind of fell off from martial arts. And then 2 years ago, I started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu again.
Oh, cool.
Because I was trying to involve my son in it, who's never been very interested in martial arts, sports in general. But
the foundation is there, right? I'd imagine it's almost like if you've been really fit before, it's kind of easier to get fit again.
the muscle memory is still there for the most part.
So if the genealogy is really important, who you going to train next?
So that's the problem with Jeet Kune Do, is it's such like a life pursuit of development that to get to a level where you're going to train another person, it's like that will never happen because it does not align with priorities,
But if you do, then they could say, I was trained by a guy 3 steps removed from Bruce Lee, is all I'm saying.
That's right.
You're depriving someone of that.
I am, and I'm consciously depriving him of it. There's a path, I'm not taking it, but
it is cool because even in our industry, you see people do a lot of the same credit to who trained them.
Mm-hmm.
I was trained by somebody, or I was recruited by somebody who was brought in by so-and-so. There's a lot of, I think even when you're talking about, spending time with someone who pushes you and can beat you in most cases, and what you learn from that, I can tell you're giving a lot of credit to that individual who did that for you.
Sure.
And then we do the exact same practice here. Like, I remember the first and only person that I ever shadowed with, Keith Hewling. Shout out to Keith. And
Who was you first, huh?
he was and I almost ruined his sale. I remember this
Naturally.
clearly because I was in awe. And I turned to the customer and I essentially said, "Can you believe this?" Like,
You got so sold.
he sold me so good.
And Keith's like, Darrell, calm down,
I
buddy.
know. You stared daggers at me for a second. I just shut up after that.
I was that person too. Like, the number one rule of shadowing is stand back and don't talk.
Yeah.
And I literally was like trying to help. And my trainer was patient, but I look back now and I was like, I was that guy. I was the know nothing trying to help guy,
When I got into door-to-door 15 years ago, I was doing cable initially, and I had been in sales before, but never door-to-door. So I had done a lot of B2B stuff prior to that, and I was pretty confident. So and the kid who trained me was like, at that time I was 28 or 9 years old when I started doing door-to-door, and the kid who trained me was like, 19 or 20, and I was like, I trained with him for an hour. I was like, I'm going to go wing it, but I appreciate your time.
Yeah. You'd like seen the world, lived all these interesting places. This kid was like fresh out of high school.
Yeah.
That's also though, like, the interesting thing about the industry is learning something from everyone. I had a similar experience when I came into solar where, I had 10 years in a previous industry. I was an expert in that industry. I came here and then I was getting stuck at certain objections. I still remember like I was selling a 5-year home automation contract before, and then coming into a then 20-year solar contract, I was getting a lot of contract issues for some reason, which it's weird because that's such an easy objection to overcome, but I was getting a lot of that. And I remember there was this guy that I had like trained who, was on my team. This is a good rep, but I was like a senior manager. He was a rep. He came to solar like 6 months before me. It was doing really well. And I had a moment where I had called him and I was like, all right, I need help, like, getting through this objection. Like, how do you do it? And he gave me a couple talk tracks that I used in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sales. I still use it when I train and like when I go on doors now. And it's like, had I not gotten that piece of information from someone who technically was like lower on the totem pole and had less knowledge and information, it would have slowed me down so much. But it's hard to receive sometimes,
I tell new reps all the time, like, my pitch is nothing but a compilation of stuff that I've kind of stolen from people over the years that I could see worked. And I just inserted all this stuff because even new reps will come in. You train a combine rep and you're, kind of going back and forth on the doors, and they'll say something like from a perspective that I've like, wow, I've never even thought of that. I'm stealing that line from now on and find a place to insert that in my pitch from then on.
Well, and we're seeing, I think, more of that than we've ever seen because with all the crazy stuff going on in our industry right now, we've got teams and whole programs coming in for stability, and they're joining, and they have all this fresh material and content. We're rebuilding the whole training, program right now, and a lot of it comes from our last year or two, especially like content we've got from great leaders and reps that have been outside of our program for a long time, but have, really, really,
good insights,
awesome insights and content and experience that we plug in. And that's like how this whole thing started, like this whole thing started with a bunch of people that have skills that came in and were willing to share with each other. And it's turned into what we have now, which is pretty wild.
Well, training works better on trained people, right? Like, I always love to like watch like more developed people get really basic training. Like I was in my office space in my hometown. Dave Madsen lives really close to me, and we brought this big group in from another industry. They've been here for a month or so, and they've been selling. But after you've been an expert and then you've been selling for a month, your questions are really good. Like you have those specific things that you need help with. And I was kind of a fly on the wall for Dave as an expert working with this leader who is an expert, still needs like his talk tracks for this industry.
Sure.
But training working better on trained people, I was like a sponge. Like hearing Dave like talk about, I'm like front row, you know what I mean? It's like if you're a really good guitar player and you're watching John Mayer up close, you're so locked in on it because you know what to look for. You're more tuned to it. It means more to you. And so I've never even the basics, like the later I get in selling, the more appreciation I have for just the basics and the mastery of that and how well certain people can
Yeah, and
do
you
it.
can recognize it better when someone's brand new. There's a lot of value in like after your first month, I think, like getting out and seeing an expert again for a
Yeah.
few hours, because you can actually recognize what they're doing uniquely that you never would have even been able to notice.
That's where, oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, I almost prefer on a shadow day that both parties involved just get their asses handed to
Yeah.
them for a few hours.
It doesn't help to see success early.
Right.
It just doesn't help.
Generally speaking, I like to take people out 3 days of shadowing, the first 2 or 2 days in a row. But I always tell them, like, during these 2 days, it's going to just be a whirlwind. And a lot of the times it looks too easy. And then you have to go out and get your teeth kicked in a little bit over the weekend. Like, go out a couple of days, start really, the only way you're going to really get the pitch in your mind, regardless of how much you practice, is actually getting out on the doors and doing it. And once you do that, I want to take you out again next week, and then you'll start to really take a lot more away from me than you did the initial 2 days, because you just don't know what to look for at that point. You don't, it's not in your head the same way.
Once you've done this, you learn to appreciate the initial failure, because you're like, no, that's going to like open your eyes for all the training and material and content that you're going to see, like to allow you to pull the value from it that's there. Because if you don't even know that something's valuable when you're looking at it, you're not going to be able to plug it into what you do.
I had a regional manager who was telling me this story of this new rep that he was training, and they had gone out and they got a sale, and then they got another sale, and he was going to tell this rep, hey, go like knock on your own. And he's like, hey, I just kind of want to see one more. He's like, whatever. Okay. Got a third sale. And then at the end of the night, they were talking about it, and the rep was like, I still like don't feel like I've seen like a normal sale. Like, when are we going to see a normal sale? And he was like, welcome to sale. Like,
What is a normal sale?
Yeah, you're cobbling together a sale out of the raw materials that they give you in real time. There is no, every now and then you'll get a pretty standard, like, work the objections, but generally it's like a fight. It's like, when are we going to see a normal fight? It's like, yeah, then the ground was uneven and it was slippery, and then there was a guy coming from another side, and then there was low light. Like, that's the dance. That's what you iterate and fall in with. So how did you get into direct sales? Like, you came back from your journeys, or you were able to get your wife here?
Yep. So my wife at the time, basically her and my son got them back to the United States, and I went back to bartending immediately because it's easy, quick money, and I had experience in that. So, but then I was actually online looking for a job for my ex-wife at the time, and basically came across an ad for AT&T selling cable. So I went and interviewed.
Where'd you come across this ad? What year are we here?
This was in a newspaper, I bet.
It was online for sure, but 2010. So I
just like the youngins every now and then know like why you're in the spot you're in and what you've been through. Like,
I started
pick up and get a paper and look through the ads.
Yeah.
Circling them.
I mean, I've done that before. I did that in my early years. I have done the want ads back in the day, but that was before the whole travel thing. But
kind of like the original Twitter, you get 160 characters to lure someone in.
But in this case, I started with AT&T and like around Thanksgiving, so late November of 2010, I want to say.
And that was door-to-door cable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Door-to-door cable. So I ended up doing that for about 4.5 years.
Wow.
And
that was year-round, not seasonal.
Year-round. So I think part of that success was initially I kept my, I wasn't 100% confident in the door-to-door thing. So I kept my foot in the bar for about 2 weeks. Like, just kept a shift over there to like have that as a backup, until I kind of got the confidence, and I went out on a Saturday, I think like my third Saturday in, and did like 7 sales on a Saturday, which, at the time we were making $300-400 a pop, something like that, but it was way more money than I could make at a bar working a double shift. So I was like,
bar starts to sound like
done. Like that was
costing you money.
Yeah, exactly. So
there,
at that point I was like, I gave my 2 weeks notice, and if you're ever in restaurant work, they generally are like, we got your shifts covered, go away. Like,
yeah, it's interesting to see like how your path, I always like, one of my favorite things about this show is seeing how people's path uniquely has qualified them to do what they do. And then if you're sitting in this chair, it means you're a standout. Like, you're senior market leader in this market. This is a very important market, becoming even more important. Sure. But it's really interesting for me to hear like, oh, you had this like sense of adventure. You always wanted to live an exciting life. You did things on your own terms that were unconventional. To you, it probably seemed obvious to travel. You're like, I could just go. But a lot of people, like, they have these mental blocks that don't let them do stuff like that. And then coming to the realization that like, oh, if I use this job as a vehicle, I could get where I want to go and eliminate having to do this other job. Like, it's just very interesting to me to see, because the biggest takeaway from I think our guests that we have on the show isn't how they do the job, but how they think about it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
Sure. Yeah.
because your mindset is going to lead you to figuring out how to do it, but how you do it is a lot less important than like how you're thinking about it or why you're doing it. You know what I mean?
Definitely. I think mindset is one of the more important aspects of being successful at this job or in door-to-door career in general. Like,
When you traveled, I'm just thinking through like what it takes, and I'm trying to just like picture this, what it takes to have, what mentality you have to go like book that flight, especially solo, and like I'm picturing packing a bag to Thailand and it's just a backpack and you're like, this looks good. I think I'm done packing now. Like most people can't do that. I'm curious, did you ever have any like rough examples? Did you ever get, do you lose that backpack? Did someone take it from you? Like,
no. So,
smooth
but I would
sailing, or-
say that the first international trip I took was the backpacking in Europe, and my backpack was one of those massive, like huge, giant clips backpacks, and I lugged that thing around Europe for 4.5 months.
You're like, I'm never doing
And,
this.
and I had a
bag.
small tent in there, which I never used. Like, I brought a bunch of stuff that, like,
Hey, you have to learn.
yeah, that I thought would be important that turned out not to be important at all. And by the time, I was taking that year-long trip, I had a little backpack with
You're like in a hostel and everyone's watching you take out like your mess kit. And you
They're like, look at the new guy.
sniper, dude.
A grizzly old backpacker's just like rolling his eyes at you.
Galaxy up there, and then like your little alarm clock.
something like that. Yes. So by the time, you get seasoned like anything else. And I was like, this is all I need. So, and I knew
Very
that
cool.
would be good to go.
How does how did you develop a proficiency in sales? Like when did it become like transfer from being a job that you did to like actually getting really good at it? And then how did that lead you to solar?
Sure. Well, so I've always said that honestly, the restaurant work and the traveling, the restaurant work, I think prepared me very well socially for the ability to like talk to strangers and deal with that piece of it, like without any, like a lot of nervousness or anxiety where that was concerned. And then while I was bartending and doing restaurant work, I was usually working business to business as well, like doing a B2B sales job. So I did D-Reg for a long time with like big commercial. I was walking into businesses and trying to talk to business owners and like hospitals and different things like that. So, sales at that point, I kind of figured out the sit with somebody and do the pitch and memorize the talk tracks. And, so when I started door to door, it was actually, I hated B2B, to be honest with you, because it was 90% prospecting and 10% sales. Like,
It's interesting too, because a lot of people that don't have your experience, like you probably see it all the time. People that come into your doors are like, I really want to get into this. I want to get something that maybe seems a little bit more like
prestigious. Yeah.
but it's all door knocking.
Yeah.
Medical sales, B2B sales, real estate, like it's all prospect. It's the same stuff.
It's a boatload of prospecting,
Yeah.
basically. And
With limited prospects.
Mm-hmm.
the
Right?
problem is you're prospecting most of the time to non-decision makers, because you walk into a business and there's a person at a desk whose job it is to make sure you never get to be to the person you need to talk to. So that was what's frustrating. So when I started working door to door, it was really refreshing actually to knock on a door and have a decision maker answer. And like,
You're like, oh, it's so much easier.
like right into the sale. Like, yeah, exactly. So that was like, oh, this is great.
It's so important to like, a lot of people see like, oh, I'm a door knocker, but you're seeing like, oh, this is faster to get to decision, like mindset. It's everything.
Yeah, it's actually funny how what a lot of people are scared of, you appreciate the most about the opportunity. Like a lot of people are scared to knock a door, someone answers and it's go time. You're talking to the person and you're like, that's all I want. You're like, it's from the experience. You're like, I've had a lot of experience where that moment is like special and you want to get to it, and I can just have unlimited amounts of that. So yeah, so much of what makes you successful. I wish we could do these with people all the time. Like I wish I could do this with every one of my leaders. I've worked with Chris for like a decade and I'm learning a lot about him.
So many questions.
Yeah, me too. But it's just cool to see someone who values something that a lot of other people have not learned the value of or are scared of.
I don't know if you ever heard, we were at dinner last night. We were talking to some people that have come from, you know, other parts of our industry do a lot of setter closer. And there's a place for that. It's becoming obsolete because with 25D going away and like loans and stuff like that. And now whatever, the process makes it pretty easy to onboard a customer. But a lot of our leaders have come to the same conclusion where you go into this thinking, oh, I need a lot of stuff. I need leads. I need somebody to find interested people. I need to know where, like, I need to minimize waste of time and stuff like that. But you find that like a lot of the most proficient salespeople are like, okay, I don't waste my time with anybody else's like leads, start, whatever. Just give me 15 fresh doors and I'll just go talk to them. And it ends up being more efficient because you appreciate that it's like, hey, if I create this account myself, I can make sure that the proper tone was set, that the proper expectation was set, that the proper like foundational relationship is in place. I can also guarantee that they've seen me around, that they've seen other success, that there's social proof, and it's actually easier. But you don't know that until you learn to think like that. And even people that are doing the job but aren't really looking to the essence of it, like it'd be like if you thought martial arts was just about violence or fighting.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the way you move through the world. It's about the way that you see opportunity. It's about the way that you assure that what you want out of life you get, right? It's not about fighting. It's like, it's not about like money. It's about like, hey, this is how I create a life that I want. You know what I mean? And it really applies to everything. I don't know.
I mean, not to talk too much about martial arts, but while I was in China, part of the study there was Qigong, which I don't know if you've heard of or familiar with, but it's the study of Qi is like basically the inner energy that, you know, pools and flows through your body. So if you ever had or seen, like been into acupuncture, seen those charts where it shows energy pools, like where they put the needles and all that stuff, it's basically this study of manipulating that energy. So like the Shifu of that has been studying internal and external Qigong for years and could literally like pull his testicles up into his body where you could kick him in that area and it wouldn't matter.
It's like, I have a superpower that nobody knows.
Yeah. I mean,
kick
so
as hard as you can.
It wouldn't matter because they weren't there to injure in the first place. So like,
what a wild
like,
skill.
You'll just break your foot. Go for it. Yeah.
So, I mean, that was just one of many things. Like
He'd be a great bartender.
Definitely.
Oh, absolutely.
So like one of the senior Chinese students I saw put 3 spears on the butt. The butt of the spear was up on like a wall, like the corner of the wall. And he put the 3 spears into his neck right here and just leaned all of his body weight until the spears were bending. I have a video of this.
You saw?
I saw it with my own eyes, and I have a video of this as well. And
this is one of the like the orphan
so
kids.
when he came back, one of the senior students that had stayed after, he was like probably 20. He'd stayed there to help train the foreign students. He'd been doing that. He'd been there for 20 years or whatever. And it was marked there, but these are not like razor sharp, but they would skewer and kill somebody if you were to, were so inclined. And he just basically, so he had studied this so long that he could pool his energy in that location. And then he would externally toughen that area as well through external Qigong and then move the energy to that place where it wouldn't penetrate. And it was just like, as a foreigner, when you're there, like, this is impossible. Like,
you're like, this is why I came to.
Yeah, this is why I'm here. Right. But, you need to dedicate to that for 20 years like he did to get to that location. But the fact that it's possible is just opens your eyes to like, holy cow.
So that's you like on orientation day. We're like, what is this weird world of wonders?
Yeah, no, I mean, so
I feel like sometimes when a brand new rep comes in and just sees someone super experienced, it looks like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's levels.
I mean,
so how'd you come into solar?
Sure. Well, basically I was doing the cable thing for 4.5 years, and by
It's probably a lot longer than most people. Like, you probably saw everybody come and go. Were you one of the most senior guys?
Well, at that point I had basically, so the guy that hired me, by, I would say, I don't know, 1.5 years in, he brought me like kind of into a leadership position and was sharing some of the override for the office and all that stuff. And, actually after, so cable started to kind of decline. The writing was on the wall a little bit. So I had a buddy that was in the solar industry that he came from cable and had been bothering me for a year to like look at it. I'm like, no, because I was doing, I was 25 or no, I started at 28. So I was in my late 20s and I was making $150,000 a year selling cable and managing teams. And I thought I was doing pretty well at the time. So I was like, leave me alone. I'm good. And I started to see people kind of cutting the cord. Netflix was becoming popular. People were going internet only. And I could kind of see that industry was on the decline. So I finally decided to go look at that opportunity. And that was with Solar City back in the day. So in this case, I didn't trust, he was kind of a friend, but I didn't trust him as to be my leader. So, I met with him and learned about the opportunity and then didn't move forward with it. And then he scheduled a lunch to go meet with his director, who was like, okay, and so I had met with, his regional, who didn't impress me. And then I had to meet with his director. And that was the first time I was like, okay, this guy can be my leader. And
Who was that?
his name was Gilles. I can't remember Gilles' last name.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be Jesse.
No, it wasn't Folsom. He was the VP at the time.
What
So,
a dude, man. What a dude.
I didn't get to meet Jesse in person until we went to Vivid Plus in that case. But,
Side note, he's like shredded now.
yeah, I know.
He's like, dude, yeah. If somehow this gets to Folsom, Jesse Folsom, hey,
Looking
I
good.
see the work you're doing, bro. It's incredible. Like, he's an incredible.
Him and I are still tight. So he's out in Honolulu, doing the crumble thing as well. And, I still talk to him.
What a cool dude.
Once every couple months or so. But, basically I ended up starting at Solar City and did pretty well. And, because I had already managed sales teams, I would say within 6 months, I was back into, kind of a co-leadership with the person who recruited me, who I said I didn't trust it to be my leader. I won't name names. You know who you are. But in this
Big thing, dude. Like when you're doing a job where you can't separate like what you do from how you're doing, like you need to have everything in place. I don't know how to describe it other than that, but the job, it's a whole body job, whole body, whole mind job.
The reason I say I didn't trust him to lead was because he just wanted to recruit and lead, like manage a team. He actually didn't want to do anything to do like with selling. So he didn't want to be out there actively selling and knocking and training or doing any of the things that it takes to like grow and maintain a team, in my opinion. So he just wanted to recruit and lead and get overrides on everyone else's sales. Like,
it's interesting that you use the word trust in that scenario. Like, I actually think that's really telling, because if you were going to like a Shifu or something that was going to train you that you didn't think had the skill set or the right intention, it's probably like, I don't trust him to train me, right? But this job's very personal, and trust is very personal,
yeah,
right? But I think I think it's very telling that because your leader, supposedly supposed to be your leader, wasn't willing to do the work, it resulted in low trust. I think that's very poignant.
yeah. So I had to like meet someone at the company that I was like, okay, I can put some stock in this guy and trust that he's going to have my best interest in at heart. And like someone I can go to like, that's higher level than me, that I, like we were talking about the martial arts thing. I want someone that I know is more skilled than I am, that's going to lead me in the right direction.
Yeah. It sounds like you've always been uncomfortable at the idea of being like the best person in the room. You like want to have,
well, there's no growth in that, right?
Yeah.
Then you're stuck. Like, okay, like where do I go from here? Right. If you don't have anyone to emulate and work with that's better than you are to move you in a higher direction. And that's what I think everybody wants. Someone to like help develop them into the next step of their life or career.
and it's so interesting to see the difference between that mentality. And then we've all had someone who maybe we used to work with 3-4 years ago that went off and put themselves in a room where they are, they prefer to be the best in the room. And then I'll reconnect with that person 3-4 years later, and it feels weird because I'm like, it feels weird that you're the same right now.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're not thinking like that anymore. Like, it's a weird combo to jump back into. It feels, like traveling back in time because they just haven't progressed, because they haven't, put themselves in a situation where there's someone kicking their butt on a regular basis that's helping them grow,
Yeah. So you come up in leadership in Solar City.
Yep.
What was one of the main takeaways that you had from being a rep versus being a leader, like in your early days? Like what is something that you learned that helped you like frame that experience?
Well, so I think the industry has really evolved over the years, definitely, because in like when I started either back to cable or the beginning of solar, when I started being a leader, it was purely because while those 3 years that I lived in Thailand, I was teaching English to kindergarten and elementary students. So I was up in front of a classroom, lesson plans, teaching kids how to speak English, which I think was helpful when I got into the leadership aspect, because I was already comfortable getting up in front of a room and kind of doing the whiteboard thing and teaching people. But I became a leader purely out of high level sales, like just because I was high level at sales and I always was generally leading the team in sales. I had people just naturally kind of coming to me to ask me like how I'm doing this, or what's my pitch, or can you help me that, or asking questions. And because of my background with teaching, I think I just at one point snatched the marker out of my my leader's hand, like, can I just take that from you here and let me
like a natural.
Yeah, it kind of did. So as like,
never gave that marker back.
I really didn't in this case. Like,
You gotta earn the marker, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, in this case, I think just being, in those days, it wasn't like you needed all of these array of skills. It was like, be really good at sales.
Yeah.
And then, the people are going to naturally gravitate to you because, it's like you lead from the front, and that's all it really takes. That's why we're such an important aspect for us as leaders at Sunrun, and something we've, back to the Vivint Solar days, like you have to be a leader, an effective leader at this, you have to be able to lead from the front and actually instill confidence in the people that you're leading, that they're going to want to listen to you because you're showing them the way, not just basically telling them the way.
Yeah. I've had an epiphany lately in the way I think about that.
Sure.
Because what I used to say to like when I would sit amongst leaders and we would like just think about leadership in the job, I used to say, man, it's really strange that you get promoted based on your sales to do a job that's nothing like that. Like, hey, it's like, hey, you're a good seller. Now you need to lead people. They're completely different skills. Like you don't always say,
Borderline opposite.
yeah, like you don't always say, hey, you're a great athlete, you should be the coach, because the skills are very different. Like you'd look at most NBA basketball coaches and they couldn't play at the level of the reps or of the athletes. But here's the thing. It's interesting because you look at like they're like music. Okay, so take like a group like Pink, the artist Pink.
Yeah.
She's just part of like a group, right? And as they were coming up, L.A. Reid, like the big like music mogul, grabbed her and said, hey, you have it. I want you to be a solo artist, right? And so it's interesting because it's like she had that thing, right? Whatever it was, she stood out.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because leaders stand out. They show a higher level of proficiency, and the arena is sales. And so it's like the high sellers, it's not necessarily that we hire high sellers to lead because they're good at high selling, but it's almost like the high sales exemplifies and like puts an exclamation mark by that thing that they have. Like
That's true.
you're standing out, you're doing more work than other people, you see this differently, you think differently, you operate at a higher level. That's evidence, not proof. Like, right? So it's like a lot of people will say like, I proved myself before, I don't need to lead from the front. It's like, no, leading from the front is just the outcome of the way that leaders live and think. Does that make sense?
Very true.
Especially nowadays, like with I like that because with commissions where they are, like if someone's going to go do an elite level of volume, they're wired super differently. Like the masses are kind of wired to go, kill enough to eat. Like what you need to eat is just how much you go get. And the people who are out there hitting franchise, hitting premier, et cetera, like they are clearly wired differently to just do the best that they can do.
That's
like
right.
Stay busy, stay on attack, stay on offense, well beyond what you just need right now. And that, whether it comes from they're thinking of the future, they're thinking beyond just today. Those are the types of skills. That's a different mentality that it takes to actually lead people. And going back to trust, like that's the type of mentality that other people will trust in their leader. Like someone who is going to go out and do that is the person that people want to be in a room with that can kick their butt every day.
Yeah, I think about this a lot. I had this neighbor back in the day that got into financial planning. I think what happened is something like whatever he was doing before didn't work out. And so he got this job as a financial planner, was trying to build a clientele. He was later in life. It's a tough spot to be in, but I could kind of see it for what it was. And he was doing his prospecting, starting with your friends and your neighbors and stuff. And so he came to me and essentially said, hey, he invited me to this fundraiser thing. It was a cool event. I went, and then he pitched me on being my financial planner. But I already knew him as a friend. And so like, it was really interesting. And I hope this doesn't sound whatever, self-aggrandizing, but if you were to look at the street that we lived on, he had this like 1-story house across the street he was renting. I had this 3-story house across the street that I owned outright. I had paid cash for it. And so, but whereas I had done door-to-door sales, I had sacrificed like crazy and worked really hard, and that's what I did with the money. And so he's like, I want to be your financial planner. And just like standing in the middle of the road and looking at 2 sides of the street, I was like, you're financially weaker than me. So how, right? It was the most basic thing. And I've thought about that with leadership ever since, is like, if you're not in a stronger financial place than me, or at least have more sound principles to help me get there, then I don't know what you can teach me. And that's the one thing I think that leaders that employ the lead from the front principle, it helps them in a way that they can't articulate, where they stand before them. Like a rep's like standing in the road looking at both sides of the street, and they're gravitating towards that side of the street, because it's like your results are evidence of excellence.
Because if you're not leading from the front, your whole message to everyone at all times, you need to be telling the story of why you should lead them, instead of telling them how to improve, you know? Whereas if you're leading from the front, you can talk to them nonstop all the time about how to make them better. And if you're not, every word out of your mouth needs to be convincing them to continue to follow you. And it just doesn't last.
That's true. That makes complete sense. The person that I worked with for 4.5 years, my initial guy that hired me as a leader, really he had stopped selling at that point and was just running that team. And all he would do is tell the story about how he, basically for 5 years led AT&T in sales and won their highest award. And because he had to build that trust. And if you're not showing it evidently by going out and doing it, actively, then you have to continually talk about the past to make sure everyone, instills that trust in
this poor guy. We've been ragging on him for 30 minutes.
Let's stay on him for a minute. And this might alienate some of our guests, but it's like our friends that use Androids.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Oh boy.
It's like our friends that use Androids. It's like, if you use an Android, you have to have an explanation, and it's so exhausting. It's so exhausting. And honestly, like, if you're an Android user, you could sit and tell me for 10 minutes why, the resolution's better and the customization is better. And at the end of it, I'm like, me. Like, you said a lot of words. None of it landed. At the end of the day, it's just not as cool as an iPhone.
At the end of the day, your texts are green.
At the end of the day, your texts are green, man. And if you're explaining, you're losing. That's the thing. And so, do you want an explanation or do you want evidence? And people that lead from the front have clear evidence, and people want to be around people that have evidence of excellence. That's why we like watching sports. That's why we like watching people win. That's why we root for people, because there's something in the human spirit that's drawn to excellence.
Absolutely.
And it's a clear way to provide evidence to people that are seeking it.
And it builds instant trust. Like, rather than having to prove it through words and speaking, you don't need to bother with it. Like you just said.
Yeah. Speed of trust comes from competence and character, and the competence is evident when someone's leading from the front. You just don't have to spend time. Speed of Trust is one of my favorite books, Franklin Covey book. And it just talks about how important speed is and where it comes from. And it's competence and character. Like, if I can trust your competence because I can see you putting it up every day, we can move quickly together. Like, if I'm that leader, I can develop you quickly and level you up quickly, and we don't have to worry about, telling the stories of competence because you don't get to see it every day. And the other half being character. If you don't have to second guess somebody, you can all move really quickly together.
Makes total sense.
Well, let's can we fast forward to Chris's leg? I'm seeing this scar, and this just happened, and I know we're about to wrap up here in a few minutes, but as you were walking through your travels, and I'm thinking through how much you've just like stared in the face, and you're like, things that would freak people out, like booking that ticket and not having a return and only having a small bag, and deciding you're going to go study whatever. We said so many words today I'd never heard before, martial arts categories.
Qigong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Qigong. Yep.
Recently, we did a league trip out to New Zealand, and was it the last day?
No, it was the second to last day.
Second to last day. We're all starting to, miss home and think about going home. And Chris decides, to forget his age
And
and
be upstaged.
yeah, and to show off a little bit for his +1. And so he climbed
that's
up
what
on
it
a
was.
rock. It was only like a 3-foot high rock and jumped off, landed weird, and snap.
I have a video of it actually. Where
It's more of like a snap. So snap, 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 snap.
Yeah.
Snap, snap.
A very long snap, actually.
So yeah, I mean, I did some rock climbing and jumped purposely. Like I got halfway up.
Little
and
parkour action.
In the little video, she says, "How are you going to get down?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just going to jump." And the video stops there, and I
Why?
This could be on like a famous last word before disaster video.
Yeah.
People are throwing up in the corner.
I wasn't. I mean, I jumped. It was probably 6 feet high, which is I've done many times in the past, but landed wrong, broke my ankle in 4 places. This was in February of this year. So, and then, 2 metal plates, 16 screws, 10 weeks on crutches,
Got a few extra days in New Zealand out of it.
fun stuff. I got an extra 2 weeks in New Zealand out of it.
Did you get the free healthcare thing?
I did. I stayed there purely because, I mean, even though I have good insurance here,
Yeah.
this would have cost me at least 30 grand, I would say, if I had been come back to the States for it.
Yeah, that ankle was a mess.
Unfortunately, we've had some accidents on our international trip we take every year. And the silver lining always seems to be like other people like will come back. Actually, we had another one in New Zealand. And they're like, honestly, the healthcare's kind of.
We should start as we're picking places. Like healthcare needs to be a factor.
I mean, they did a great job for sure. And, I would say 95% at this point. So can't complain too much, but it was tough, obviously going through Q2, like trying to knock doors on crutches, something I've never had to do before.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, you had a market. So, net metering recently ended for your market,
Yes.
which completely changed our product. It took it from a solar market to a battery market. Your competitors essentially died. We had to come out with a new offer, a new pitch, a new process, right? At the same time, the big, beautiful bill mess starts happening where solar as a whole is in jeopardy.
Yep.
Meanwhile, you can barely physically move.
Pretty much. So yeah, net metering, NEM3 started for us in January of this year of 25. And then I broke my ankle in February. I was also right in the middle of a nasty divorce. So the same week I got my crutches off, I also finalized the divorce, which was like 2 weights lifted off the shoulders, which was nice. So,
And what was the result?
I had to go out and of course do 6 that week and just,
Yeah. The first week. So Chris, the videos of those dogs that don't have back legs and they have they make a little wheelie cart for them. Chris was on this wheel thing forever, and
I was on the knee scooter because
the knee scooter.
trying to knock on crutches was really tough. So I decided to get a knee scooter and make that an attempt. It was a mixed bag of I did both.
Probably good to get around, but hard to get around like a house and
Yeah, I mean, getting around the neighborhood was easier, but getting from the sidewalk to the door was more difficult. And then if I got invited in a house, that's even worse because now I'm just going to hop. I literally hopped into someone's house on 1 foot and hopped to the kitchen table and made the sale and hopped out. And
I can't imagine anyone canceling on the guy who showed up in crutches. He must have had high retention.
Actually, that guy did cancel, but that's okay.
It's hard because honestly, there's a line there. I'm impressed by it because I know what it takes. And the weather, I mean, Q2 weather in Chicago, right? That's all a thing.
Yeah.
So it's you're not knee scootering in the nice spring weather. It's snowing and raining.
Figure out you have a neat
20
spot.
degrees outside.
Yeah, that's right. But it's if it's too big of a, you can't the customer's not impressed. It's a little strange for them. So you kind of have to minimize it, not have it be a distraction, but still obviously I'm injured. Obviously I'm still working. It's just one of those things that's strange where you're yeah, I remember him. He had a boot and hopped. That's just a strange thing. And so managing that dynamic.
Yeah. I mean,
tough.
I would just throw it into the pitch at some point and be excuse the crutches. I broke my ankle, 6 weeks ago or whatever the case.
Well, I just think maybe as a final note, it's not like I wish upon people to go through, the first half of this year that Chris went through, but we're learning a lot of where the mentality came from that, helped you push through that. Sure. But for January, divorce, the whole market changing, the worst, I think probably worst weather and period of time in the year for our industry.
Sure.
And then the ankle on top of that, and then the big beautiful bill, stress and whatever. It reminds me, there's a guy who in summers and alarms, day one, we had this like get to know each other activity where, all the reps went out and we'd play basketball, snapped his Achilles. His name is Ken Yim. I hope Ken hears this, one of the best like sales friggin' beasts I've ever met. Like we were all a little scared of Ken because he's so intense. But it was his first year. And so we're like, he's intense, but can he figure this out? And he crutched all summer.
Wow.
And qualified to manage that. Like first year, over 100 and something installs, like crushed it. And so, I wasn't that surprised how you pulled out of it. Like Chris still kept pace. Since his crutches came off, he's been at like a franchise pace since then. But
it turns out it's easy to knock when you can move your body, huh?
Easier. Yeah,
Easier.
for sure.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. It's like when you don't have something for a while, when that comes off, the crutches come off. All of a sudden, Chris is like, the life that we all get to live. When Chris finally got it back, he was like, I am doing 6 a week from here on out. Like,
it's easy to take stuff for granted.
Yeah.
It's taken away from you.
Yeah. So, but everyone listening to this and everyone in the room out there, we got a training going on. You can kind of hear. It's like we're all living the same life every day that Chris didn't get to live, like healthy body generally, the opportunity to just go talk to as many people as we can get in front of. And it's always good to see an example of someone who, finally gets that back and like has the mentality to see it for what it's worth,
For sure.
What piece of advice would you give to close us out for anybody that's life circumstance is complicating their work currently?
I mean, just like anything else, you have to find the time and the focus to just basically go out and, do what we do, like anything else, like any of the top people in the industry, you always hear the term work the hours. Cause it's, with our job, there's not many people looking over your shoulder on a daily basis. So you have to have the self motivation or discipline and determination to just go out and do the job and, work the hours. And no matter, honestly, there were some difficult times I went through with my marriage, which led to my divorce. And I think I always use work as a really good distraction of just like forgetting about whatever problems I had at home or in my life and, going out and dialing in to some extent and just really focusing on having really good conversations with customers or strangers in order to, do the job and make it fun. I think that's part of the mindset that goes into this is like, you have to kind of gamify it a little bit and try, because it's, it's not always fun to go and get rejected, obviously, and, talk to strangers at their door. But, if you have the right mentality and mindset to doing that, regardless of what you have going on in your life, I think it's actually helpful to, all it takes is one good conversation for the day, even if you got your teeth kicked in 20 times, to like pull your head out of that place of like, into something like, okay, I feel better, and allow yourself to just keep going. Like really just maintain that positive attitude, regardless of what's going on in your life and what's going on with the job.
I think that's really helpful. It's good. It's good to work, right? Like, and a good productive endeavor can often help elevate other things that you're going through, at least give you the strength or headspace to work through it.
Sure.
The other thing is, when you have, everybody has them, right? That's what this life is about. But like when you have complications, they're often compounded by money issues and not being proud of yourself. And so it's like, if you can have confidence and some capital, it's not going to solve your problems, but it's certainly going to equip you a little bit better.
For sure.
It's been awesome to see, like, you've had a lot on your shoulders, dude. Like, it would have been a lot to just go through the standard evolution the market's going through. And then family dynamics are always hard. Like your meaningful relationships, and especially like children and like that, man, that consumes your mentality and your energy and your heart. And then on top of that, like your physical body, I mean, just respect, man. Like you've championed it. You've done it without like drawing a lot of attention to yourself other than by people that are watching. And it's been really inspiring.
I actually want to give you credit for something. So like after, I got back from New Zealand and I was on the crutches and, both of you have called me and had personal conversations about some of the things that were going on in my life, but something you said on the phone that stuck with me, like, because I told you about everything that was going on with my marriage, my divorce, my kids, the ankle situation, some of the hardships that we were going through in the market. And you're like, well, you're going through you're being forged right now, like was what you said to me. And then, like, you know, it made me envision myself as a hot piece of metal being hammered into something else. And I was like, all right, that's a great way to look at it, actually, is like all of these hardships. Cause, you know, you look back at life and you realize in hindsight always that the things that you don't fail unless you quit, but the things that you went through that were difficult in your life is actually what shapes your personality, your character, your integrity. Like all of those things come out of the hardships that you face in your life. Success is great, but it doesn't teach you much.
Yeah.
So like all of those things I just went through are, you know, helped to further all of those things in my personality for character and integrity and the things that I learned from those hardships. And like, that was I needed that because I was not in a great place at that time. You know, it took me, I was a bit of a woe is me coming back from New Zealand for the first 2 or 3 weeks. You know, I had a pretty negative outlook on where I was at in life. And I had to kick my own ass a little bit. Excuse my French. I hope I can swear on this, but, to get my mindset back to where it needed to be. And conversations with both of you guys helped me do that, honestly. So
Well, you make the most of it, man. It's a great story and you should be proud. So
thank you.
should we get to work?
Guess so.
To work.
Let's do it.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, guys.
If you like what you hear and are interested in joining the team, DM us on Instagram at RunXStreet.
What are you waiting for? Shoot us a DM and let's get going.